welcome to the C-Suite Edge podcast. I'm your host, John Light, founder and CEO of Sabertooth Recruiting. And today I'm talking to a colleague, I guess I could say, in the professional services space, Lucas Slew, the managing director at Risecor. Lucas, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you inviting me onto your show.
Yeah, I want to have some fun with this, Lucas, because you've got an interesting background, and I know you and I connected through a networking group, which it's funny to me, I guess in an ironic way, that as AI becomes more promulgated out in the marketplace and people try to apply it to this and apply it to that, I've actually stepped up my human-to-human networking efforts because I think that there's a huge amount of value in that person-to-person connection. So to kind of get us going, can you give us share a 90-second rundown on you and on Risecor and what's on your plate today?
Sure. So, I've been a consultant for many, many years. Background, with KPMG and Grant Thornton, and as an independent consultant as well, doing a lot of M&A integration, transformation type work, and opportunity came to join Risecor as the new managing director. So I jumped at the opportunity. I thought there was a lot of potential here. We had great synergies. My background, my work, my clients, all was a good match, a good fit for Risecor and a good fit for me. So I jumped at that opportunity, and it's been an incredible experience so far. I think the firm has a lot of potential, a lot of really smart people, and I think over the next year we are going to be doing a lot more good work.
Well, I like what you just said. The firm has a lot of potential, but it has a lot of smart people. And part of my philosophy when it comes to talent is I like to hire smart people. Now, there are a couple, 3 dozen or more varieties of intelligence and smart, quote unquote, out there. There's people can be smart with their hands. They can be artistic, they can be scientific, they can have other strengths and weaknesses. But when you have people aligned on a team the proper way, pushing towards a common goal with the right smarts in alignment, man, you can work wonders. And so I guess my question around that, kind of the fulcrum of this conversation, now that you've gotten your feet on the ground with Risecor, Lucas, what's the biggest problem you guys focus on solving, and who do you solve it for?
Right. So, Risecor, we offer many solutions. So I want to say we're capable of solving many different problems that our clients have. And our client base currently is private equity firms and their portfolio companies. One of the big, and I won't say it's a problem in the negative sense, but a good problem in that we do a lot of M&A integration work. So private equity firm has a portfolio company. They're looking to obviously grow that portfolio company. They're looking for different ways of growth, whether it's organic or strategic. They go out and they do an acquisition of another company to help take them in the strategic direction that they want to go. And they'll come to us to help with that integration. Now, there are a lot of standard things that a lot of firms can say that they do with regards to helping clients integrate, right? We all want to do good work. We want to make sure we're doing right by the client and delivering and helping achieve the synergies. But, it's how you get there along the way that makes the difference. And what I believe one of our strengths in that area is that, people you say we're small, we're nimble, all those kinds of things. A lot of firms are. But what differentiates us, I think, is that we bring in a senior level person. We are a team of many senior people who we bring in to actually guide, advise the client, the operating partner, the C-level folks. But it's also those same senior level people who are rolling up their sleeves and doing the work. We don't then bring in, an army of junior folks who need oversight and guidance and a review of their work before it gets passed on to the client. We have the senior level folks that actually do the work. And by doing that, you've got senior folks who will immediately identify gaps in processes, gaps in technology, gaps in people right away. right? These are folks who have seen it, done it, been there, right? Been doing this for 20 years, not 3,
Right.
right? And those are the folks that you want on your team, because the same person who's advising the client, the C-level folks, the operating partner, the board, it's the same person who's down in the weeds and can see those issues and escalate them and elevate them quickly, versus possibly even missing them because the person who comes in with 3, 5, 7 years of experience just doesn't have that
Yeah.
experience to see it, right? And I think that's our, what I'll call our superpower. We bring in that person with 20 years of experience who can come in and see what the issue is right away, who can help plan and interact with all the senior folks all the way down to the staff, and know how to interact with them, how to guide them, how to help them achieve what they need to get done. Because remember, at the same time, these folks that we're interacting with at the portfolio company or at the company being acquired, they've got a day job to do. They've got to do their regular job, and at the same time, they're being asked to do this integration. By us bringing in a senior level person who's been there and done it, they know what to do. They come to the client, to the stakeholder, and say, all right, here's what we need to do. Here's where I need your help, because I've already done these 4 things, because I know what needs to get done. I know how to do it. But here are the things that we really need your expertise in, because you are the subject matter expert in this particular area. And so we're taking a lot of the workload off of those folks, and we're not turning to them to provide guidance. We are actually guiding them through the process and understanding, each integration is different, so we are aware of where those differences are. But on any integration, 2/3, 75% is the same from one client to the next, from one industry to the next. Yes, there's nuances based on industry and content, but an accounting system integration is an accounting system integration. HR migration is an HR migration. Yes, you may be using ADP versus Workday versus something else, those types of nuances. But that process and what you need to know about finance or HR or accounting or IT is still the same. Coming in doing an IT blueprint, the process is still the same regardless of what industry you're in, right? But what our benefit is, and back to our superpower, is we have those people who are experienced. They've been there. They've been senior leaders in companies, so they know what to do. They know what to look for. They know how to guide the client versus having the client need to guide them and spend all this time working with them. So we're taking a lot of that workload off of the client, and we don't have layers where you bring in a junior person to do the what I'll call the discovery work. They talk to the manager, who then sort of helps them think about it a little more and pretty up the PowerPoint. It goes to a senior manager who's going to review it all and then have the conversation with the client. We're that senior manager level person who comes in, does the discovery work, already sees where the gaps and issues and the risks are, have solutions already in mind, and then we come and talk to you. So it's not 5 conversations over the period of 2 weeks. It's 1 or 2 conversations over 1 or 2 meetings that you now have some serious takeaways to think about, right? That's where I think the Risecor superpower comes into play.
Yeah, and you make a great observation. Having been in professional services, I know there's a tendency, especially when you're talking about work that you do at Risecor, let's unleash the MBAs. Let's turn loose the interns, at a couple $100 an hour, whatever it is, and rack up these hours and have this process. It's almost a pyramid going up and down. And I believe, and this is my sense of things, and when we look at the labor market in general, and let's just focus on professionals, there's a squeeze going on. There's a lot of people who have a handful of years of experience or less hitting the marketplace, and then it just gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And as you go up, there's this, I read a great article on this, Lucas, that companies fixate on hiring people with, I think it's 7 to 12 years of experience, and they ignore developing entry-level people with career path, and they ignore people with a lot of experience who could come in and potentially work much more efficiently because they've had a seat at the table. They know the right questions to ask. And if you have somebody with that level of experience, specific domain expertise, and they have a leader-player-coach mentality, that sounds like a home run to me. I'd rather have somebody who can add to what I'm thinking as a CEO, for example, or a PE exec partner, than someone that I have to come in and tell how to think.
Exactly. And I completely agree with you, right? Yes, you bring in the senior level person, they may cost a little more than, well, say a mid-level or a junior person. Uh, but in that junior person scenario, remember, you've got layers before that information actually makes it to the client,
Yeah.
right? It goes through review, it goes through, someone ticking and tying, all those kinds of things, right? And that all takes time, and obviously that's billable hours for that consulting firm that has that structure. And that's not to say we don't use junior people as well. There are absolutely situations where a junior person is appropriate to do the work and to do the work for the client, right? But at the same time, you know, when we come in, we're moving quicker because we can. We have that
Yeah.
experience. So our costs may be a little bit higher, but when you can do it quicker, your overall costs are less, and the
Yeah.
quality of work, I'm pretty sure, is going to be much higher than what you would get otherwise, right? So I think you take a bigger picture perspective on what that end game is, and you look at what is the best way to get there, and I think it's the Risecor way.
Question. Since we're talking about M&A immigration and integration, what do you guys see happening in the marketplace over, say, the next 12 months or so? Because the market right now, I know from a job market, labor market perspective, is as wonky as I've ever seen it in 20 plus years as a headhunter. We have a lot of business kind of stacked up at the starting gate, but the flag hasn't dropped. Nothing's crossed the start line yet. It just seems like in March, everybody hit the brakes. They didn't tap the brakes, they hit the brakes. What are you all seeing, your brief overview, if you would, on the marketplace as it relates to M&A and the need for M&A integration over the next 12 months or so?
Right. Well, there's a couple parts to that question, and one is, whenever there is an M&A integration, I think it's wiser to use outside resources. One, for the reason I mentioned before, right? You've got the team that's trying to do the day-to-day work of their business, and then you're throwing a lot more work onto their plate with the M&A integration. So that's one thing. But in the market in general, I've spoken to some other folks in the industry, and things are moving a little bit slower. There was the concerns about tariffs and how that is going to affect potential synergies and things of that nature, especially for and when there's tariffs, it's not just applicable to global companies, right? Companies with operations in Europe,
Sure.
or Asia, Africa, South America, wherever. It's U.S.-based companies that are affected by tariffs as well, right? There's raw materials you're importing that you need to do your business, right? And so
Right.
those are all things that are being factored in right now and causing additional analysis to be done, causing things to take a little bit longer by our clients, by those doing the acquiring, right? Making sure that what is that net effect of these potential tariffs? How long could they go on for?
Well,
Right? All
there's
those kinds
that.
of
I throw out
things.
there too. You got the cost of money. Because for several years now, until very recently, the cost of money was almost no cost, relatively speaking. Now, I remember 15, 20 years ago, a mortgage at 6.5%, 30-year mortgage was considered top of the market, good, or really good rate. And then we got down where people were getting 2 and 3 and 4%. And now that it's up in the 6.5, 7 range, everybody's pulling in their horns. But people don't realize, if you're seeing that there, businesses are also getting hit with it. And that's got to be a part of it too. I mean, how fast can we integrate this acquisition to start getting positive ROI. That has to be part of the calculation. And I would think would actually be a driver of demand for the things that you guys do there at Risecor.
Right. So, what we do at Risecor is a reflection of what's happening in the industry, what's happening at, specifically, as I mentioned, we have a lot of, our clients are PE firms, and what do they do?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, coming out of COVID, right, there wasn't, well, during COVID, there wasn't as much activity going on, right? Everybody was retrenching, trying to figure out what's the COVID effect, right? And now that we've come out of
Yeah.
COVID, things, are, PE firms had been holding on longer than they traditionally had been. So, I anticipate seeing, the sales of portfolio companies, exits taking place
Yeah.
as a priority, right? To look, they invest, they have we'll call it a 3 to 5, 4 to 6 year time frame, right, to exit. And where are they in that time frame now? Maybe they're at year 7 or 8 now because things got pushed, markets changed, COVID changed everything in certain markets, right?
Mm-hmm.
COVID did for IT what we've been trying to do for IT in the last 20 years. COVID did in 2 months, right? How many people now know how to do a Zoom call? Like, you couldn't get people to do a Zoom call unless they had someone helping them click the right buttons, right? How many CEOs now know how to set up their own Zoom call, right? They couldn't
Oh.
do it pre-COVID, right?
Yeah.
So and how many people are ordering online that weren't ordering before online, right? That whole shift, COVID made happen in literally 3 months what industry couldn't do in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Because there wasn't a
Right? And
pressing
so
need.
all of that is shifting and affecting people's thought process. And exactly to what you said, there's a cost of money. And as we actually get towards the end of the year, look, they're carrying all this money on their balance sheet. They've got to
Mm-hmm.
do something. They've got to report back to their investors. All these funds, right? Are they going to do calls? Are they sitting on cash that they may have to return? All these things are now factoring in. And
Yeah.
again, they've been sitting on some of these companies that they haven't been able to sell, that now they're finally getting around to being able to sell. So there's a whole many different things in it. If I knew the answer, I probably wouldn't be speaking to you right now. I'd be I've already made my money and I'd be sitting on a beach.
You can still talk to
Yacht,
me.
except I would be doing it from my yacht out in the Mediterranean or something like that,
That's
or down
okay.
in the
Hey, you know
Bahamas.
what? We could take the show remote and meet you on the yacht in that case. Speaking of, sorry, I just had this picture in my head of showing up flying coach to a guy who probably has his own airplane since he has his own yacht and hanging out in the Mediterranean. But Lucas, let me ask you this. 'Cause I think it's important. If people want to find you, get in touch with you, and talk to you about Risecor, what you guys do, what's the best way to find and get in touch with you?
You can always reach out to me directly. Lucas.Liu@risecor.com. Risecor.com. I'm always happy to speak to people, whether they're interested in learning about what's going on in the industry, our perspective from what we're seeing, our what we our philosophy on how we approach
Mm-hmm.
our projects, our engagements, and like I said, what our superpower is and how our superpower can help a company, and how doing it the Risecor way, I believe, is a more effective, more efficient way to go about doing an M&A integration. We come in, and like I said, you want the experience. You come to Risecor because you're looking for the experience. You don't come to Risecor if you're looking to bring in an army of 30 people to do
Yeah.
some sort of transformation where you need a lot of junior level people running down and creating reports for you or things like that. That's not who Risecor is. That's not what we do. We come in because you have a problem, and one of those problems, a good problem, is you've acquired a company, and you want to make it, you want to integrate it, you want to make it efficient, effective. Not only on the back end operation side, but how does that operation support your growth that you're seeing, that synergy, that acquiring
Yeah.
market
Yeah.
share. That's where
Well,
bringing in that experienced person who can do all of that or much of that for you, instead of bringing in the junior level person who reports to the manager, who then shows it to the senior manager, who then presents it to the client. Right? You want
yeah.
speed, not hierarchy in the way.
And I'd also throw this out, in our audience, if you're connected with me or second level for me on LinkedIn, I'm connected directly with Lucas. He's easy to find. I'm sure you could reach out via LinkedIn as well. But Lucas, I want to say thank you for joining me today and sharing so much. And I know that through our networking connections, we'll be talking some more. Who knows, maybe we have to come back and revisit the market outlook in a few months. But thanks for joining me very much today.